Okay. Oh, shoot. You know what I'm going to have to do is minimize this a little bit so you guys can see, so I can see comments. Otherwise, I won't be able to see the comments. Hi, is anybody there? Are we on? We're on. Facebook Live seems to be stuck.
It's showing up on my Facebook feed.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. It
Okay,
says we
good.
have viewers. I think I'm one of them. So I think we have people.
Okay. Yay, you see me. Okay. Thank you, Bethany.
Perfect.
Okay, yay. We had some technical issues thanks to all the. Can you hear me, Bethany, or anybody who's on?
I can hear.
Okay, okay, great. Okay, so we had some technical issues thanks to the Zoom bombing that went on this weekend. They changed a bunch of stuff, and so what I thought was easy was not. Anyway, Natalie, hello. I'm
Can
so
you believe
excited.
it's actually the first time I think we're meeting face to face?
Yes, I think it
We've been
is.
friends for years, and it's always been on the phone. Like we should have done this so long ago.
No, this would have been so much better. Well, now going forward, this is how we'll do it.
Yeah, 100%.
Okay, so hi to everybody who's just joining. I'm Gretchen Anthony. You have reached my book club, the Just Gotta Laugh book club, because these days that's what we have to do. And I am absolutely thrilled to have Natalie Hallak joining me. I should point upwards. Natalie is an acquiring editor at Park Row Books, which is a division of Harlequin and HarperCollins Books. And she's a dynamo, I have to say. Yes. And she's also my editor. And we were just saying, for those of us who are joining, we have never actually chatted face to face, pseudo face to face. We've done lots of phone calls. Natalie has calmed my tears and talked me off ledges and given me brilliant ideas for all my books. But we haven't done this. So, Natalie, just from my heart, thank you so much for everything you do, for joining me tonight. It's really a thrill to have you here.
Well, thank you so much for asking me to be a part of this. And actually, you're the one teaching me. I've never done Facebook Live before. I've done Zoom like once or twice at this point. Like this is actually a learning curve for me. So
Oh,
yeah,
that's
so thank
terrific.
you for that.
Yeah, that's terrific. So Natalie is here because besides the fact that she's immensely cool, that she happened to be on the team from Park Row who helped bring our book over from the UK tonight, The Cactus by Sarah Haywood, which I love this book and we'll get into it. But I thought it would be really fun to just kick off our conversation tonight, Natalie, by having you talk a little bit about bringing the book over. And my initial question would be, how does that work? How do you learn about these books, and what was it about the cactus that attracted the Park Row team?
Yeah. So Sarah Haywood is British, and so it already had a UK publisher attached to the book. So that doesn't always happen, and the acquisition process is such a case by case basis. So in this case, since it was coming out of the UK. It kind of is just a slightly different process where there's a US agent attached, and that's who we liaise with. And and basically what ended up happening is the book landed on Erica Imrani's desk. Erica Imrani is the editorial director of Park Row. And Park Row is dedicated to publishing outstanding literary fiction and nonfiction. And we specialize in, empowering women's stories. And And so, the cactus fits that bill. And, it's a funny story because Erica Mrani was pregnant at the time. And so for everyone who's read the book, um, motherhood plays such a big role in it. And it's structured in terms of like months, like leading up to the
Right.
main character,
Yeah.
birth. So, Erica is pregnant when she's reading this and she's just like, it just resonates in a different way. I
Yeah.
can only imagine. I don't have kids myself, but I can imagine that. Yeah. So she was just like in tears when she first read it. She was laughing, and like, as an acquiring editor, like those are just, the notes that you look for in books, like the ones that bring out that emotional reaction. And I'll just say Evergreen Tidings did that for me.
Well, I'm glad.
um, so yeah, so it's like as soon as a book has that effect on an editor, it's like, okay, we know that we have to swoop in and get this and for the list. And so yeah, that's what we did for the cactus.
Yeah. Yeah. And then she did fabulously well. I mean, the Reese Witherspoon Book Club and the Hello Sunshine Book Club. So if I understand correctly, she was already a bestseller in the UK, or at least selling really well. Like, hadn't the book been well received overseas initially?
So I think we ended up trying to line up our publication with the UK's publication. Like they were really excited about it, so we kind of tried to coordinate those plans. And so it was really kind of a joint effort. So the book came out in hardcover actually in 2018, but the Reese Witherspoon pick happened for the trade paperback, which was
Okay.
in June
Yeah.
2019. So it's like a full year after like the book had originally published here that Reese Witherspoon just came in on just, the white horse and just totally like, took us all off our feet. And
Come on, Reese. Come on.
total dream come true for
Yeah.
everyone, especially Sarah and Erica. And
Yeah.
yeah, it was unreal. Yeah.
Oh, that's so terrific. That's awesome. I love that. So when so the book is already done. What's the team's role with Sarah after you acquire the book? I'm assuming you don't have to go through any editorial, or do you?
Yeah. So in terms of, you mean like right after it had been acquired?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before Park Row puts it out.
Yeah, so since it had a UK publisher, it was kind of like two editors were working on the book. It was the UK editor and the US editor, and so that was Erica, and then it was published by Two Roads in the UK. So yeah, so it was a coordinated effort, and yeah, so it was really yeah, it was a joint
So
effort.
so Erica and her counterpart over in the UK were in correspondence with each other, just like working together. Is that how it was
Yeah,
going?
yeah, and
Oh,
working
that's
with
so cool.
Sarah. Yeah, it was really cool. Yeah, really cool
That's
to see.
terrific.
Hmm.
Okay, so I have to ask you, what do you, I know you love the book. What do you love about the cactus? What are some of your favorite aspects about it?
Oh, I mean, I'm just a sucker for complex female heroines. The
So
kinds
am
of,
I. Yeah.
like the kinds of main characters who really kind of subvert expectations, or just really kind of, um, get you thinking. And I really felt like Susan Green hit those notes for me, where it was like she has so many layers to her, and as you like keep reading, like those layers are gradually peeled back. And
Yeah.
I think that um, I was really hooked by like that emotional vulnerability at the heart of the book. And she's also just funny.
Yeah, she is. She
The
is.
humor just totally
And she has
totally
no idea that she's funny. She has
would
she has
yeah.
no awareness of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And the irony is just so good. Like yeah. I think that's what I gravitated to the most. How
Yeah.
about you?
I think that's exactly what I gravitated to. I have a weakness for particularly heroines who are hard to love. They're difficult to love, but there's something redeeming about them that hooks
Mhm.
you, and they're quirky and they're odd and they're difficult to love. I mean, my main character in The Baumgartner certainly was Violet. Um, but there's something, I don't know, there's something innately humane about them that keeps you just wanting to hear their story. And yeah, so I loved her. When, in fact, I think I wrote to you and I was like, can I get a copy of The Cactus? Because I need to read about a quirky character.
Yeah.
That's just, that's the first thing that came to mind. So, I know we're going to jump into some book discussion, but I want to see. So, oh my gosh, Bethany's online. Jody, hi, Jody. Matthew is here. Matthew happens to be my cousin. Hi, cuz, he says. Renee is here. Does anybody have any questions directly for Natalie about the process or about the book or anything before we move forward? There's always a bit of a delay in
Mm,
so I'm just going to wait a second.
no problem.
Okay, so as that broadcast, I'm just going to watch the messages and I'll come back to it if anybody has one, so we don't sit here in dead air. I thought what I would do is I always like to read segments of the book, and
Perfect. I've got my wine. It's not a book club unless you have some
oh,
wine.
I know it's not a book club unless you have wine. So I actually went ahead. I posted this recipe for the cactus,
I loved that.
the cactus rose, I think is it called. And I only had strawberries. I didn't have raspberries, but it's
Close enough.
it's a whopper. I mean,
Oh my God.
I was
Well,
like, I cannot start drinking this before book club, otherwise I'm just gonna be spewing, spewing things.
you're so good with the recipes and like the food, I feel like.
Me?
And like, yeah. And the
Oh
kids are going to ask, like, when you had the whole, like, well, I don't want to spoil it for
no,
people who,
fine. Go ahead, pitch the book, Natalie. We want to pitch the.
well, like, the whole like menu for Sam Tamblyn, who's like, you guys will see is the antagonist in, and the kids are going to ask. And oh man. Yeah. Anyway, I feel like you're pretty creative when it comes to food and I love it.
Food plays a pivotal role in that book, I will say. Okay, so one of the things that I actually reread, I had read this book before, loved it, and then kept referring to sections of it, but I reread it in whole again in advance, in prep for our book club. And in fact, this time I actually listened to the audiobook for a
Mm,
different experience. And it what well, first of all, the narrator has a lovely British accent, and she seems to bring Susan in particular to life just beautifully. I loved the narration of this book. And if you haven't finished the book or you are thinking about picking it up, I would recommend picking up the audiobook. I mean, you'll love the written book, but the audiobook is fantastic. And one of the things that hit me, okay, everybody has to ignore the fact that I'm wearing my old glasses. I cannot find my glasses. So if you have any idea where my glasses are, please message me and and let me know. One of the things that struck me about the book this time that I hadn't put together was the role that her mother's death on the opening pages plays in her pregnancy. It's, when I was reading it the first couple of times, I thought, oh, that's sad, but it's such an igniting incident. I mean, I know it's an inciting incident, but it's so quick to cascade with that series of events with, her brother her brother being a moron and then booking it at the Bull's Head, and then there's the fight at the bar, the pub, and all that stuff. I in my first read, I lost track of the fact that, and granted, you don't know that she's pregnant right away, but you know that on the second read. And it struck me, just that the fact that she's missing or she's mourning her mom, that had to shape the way she thinks about pregnancy, and particularly with the reveal at the end of the book. But the other thing that shapes her so much, I thought I would go ahead and read, and that is I think one of her defining personality traits, what makes her so prickly. And when she talks about her relationship with her dad, And this is, if you have the book in front of you and you want to read along, this is page 106. And she's talking about her memories as a child, and she said, I thought about the years I'd lain awake as a girl, waiting for my father to return from the pub. My bedroom was above the front entrance and hallway of my childhood home, and I could tell from even the smallest sounds that drifted up through the floorboards what state he was in. If he found the lock with his front door key straight away, it was good. If he dropped his keys or fumbled to find the lock, it was bad. If he closed the front door quietly, it was good. If he slammed the door, it was bad. If his footsteps across the hallway were light and even, it was good. If they were heavy or irregular, it was bad. If there was a gush of water being poured into a glass, it was good. If there was a clink of a bottleneck against a tumbler, it was bad. If he came straight up to bed, it was good. If he started playing Italian opera at full volume, it was bad. I sometimes wonder if Edward lay awake, thinking the same thoughts. I don't know. I never asked him. And I remember I was struck by this passage both times reading it because it's such, and I think that's what one of the things that makes this book so strong is that Sarah has a way of distilling an entire foundational relationship into a paragraph.
Mm-hmm.
Like this character, everything she does is so tightly wound around control, and for she's watching for triggers. She's watching for data basically on how she should react to a given situation, and that's all summed up so beautifully in one paragraph.
Yeah, it shows how we experience trauma, right? And kind of like that distance that you establish um, as a form of survival, and kind
Yeah.
of like, and it's just that moment of like insight into her character that makes you like suddenly have that glimpse of insight into like why she is the way she is that makes you just want to keep reading. At least it did for me.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely did for me. So I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to put a question out there to people as we go forward, and I want to know some of your favorite. I've come to think of them as Susanisms. What's what your favorite moments of her as a character were. I've got another one, and I'll just go ahead and read it while people are thinking about that, or just the things that made you laugh out loud, or the things that just made you think this woman is crazy. Um, One of the things, it actually comes right after the paragraph that I just read, where she's thinking about her father at night. And this scene comes to mind when she's in her neighbor's flat upstairs because she's had to take her baby to the emergency room in the middle of the night. Susan keeps bugging her, and she's like, be sure you find a replacement very soon. So she's in the woman's flat with the woman's toddler in the middle of the night. And um, she says, she feels a tap on her shoulder, and it's a little girl. And Susan says, hello there. I'm Susan, your neighbor from downstairs. Do you remember me? The child nodded, as though there was nothing at all unusual in the situation. Your mother had to go somewhere so urgently. I'm looking after you for an hour or two. Do you understand? She nodded once more, climbed over me, and squashed herself into the limited space between my recumbent body and the back of the sofa. I'm sorry, there's not room enough for the two of us. Go back to your own bed, there's a good girl, I told her. She shook her head and squeezed her eyes closed. Go back now, please. I need to sleep, and so do you, I added with even more authority. She shook her head again and closed her eyes. And this goes on and on and on. And then Susan says, young lady, this is unacceptable behavior. But she'd already closed her eyes and feigned sleep. And they go on and on and on and on about this. And Susan just keeps trying to be rational with this child. And I just thought, I I want a sequel to this book just to see what Susan is like as a mother.
Yeah.
It has to loosen her up. Her journey as a mother and dealing with the unexpected. Now I realize that's a lot of her journey in this over the course of this book, but oh man, I just couldn't. It made me giggle to think about what motherhood would bring to her. Young lady, that is unacceptable. And the poor little girl is just like, there's a stranger in my house. My mom is gone. And she wants me to go to bed and just accept this whole thing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
So,
I love when she like tells Richard that like it's over. This is like, towards like the beginning when he's like, you're not gonna keep it, are you? Like he is like making these assumptions. And for anyone who hasn't read the book, Richard is the guy that she has an arrangement with that like very perfectly fits into her like well ordered life, that she has an arrangement with this guy that they have like set times that they are going to hook up, and that's that, and it doesn't get more complicated than that.
and it's all contractual. It's all just
Yeah,
like
100%.
black and white, literally.
But then when she unexpectedly gets pregnant, that all goes out the window. And basically, yeah, when she tells him and he's like, you're not going to keep it, she's like, oh, I think I'm going to. Like, I was just like, oh, like she's a badass.
She is. She is. She's a badass. That's a good way of looking at it. Do you think that affected her decision, his reaction? Because he actually, I remember reading that this time. He actually says, but you're not going to, and then he leaves it there. She assumes he means you're not going to keep it. But the author, Sarah, doesn't spell that out. So it could be
Yeah.
either way. I don't
Yeah.
know. I suppose that's on purpose that she doesn't spell it out. That's intentional.
Yeah. That's a really good point. Because I totally just assumed it meant, that he was implying that she wouldn't possibly be a
Yeah.
good mother, I feel like that kind of like struggle to communicate exactly what you mean is definitely like a recurring theme in the book, or definitely something that keeps happening, is this miscommunication that provides for some really funny situations, but then also like has that double effect of just being like, it's kind of tragic in a way that sometimes you can't properly communicate with someone and really know them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. And the other thing about this book, since it's all from her perspective, is that's the only perspective that you to get.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Except for I will say, Rob. He's such a I know. I know I do too. He's such a presence in the book that he just by force, I think, of his personality, he keeps coming back at her and making sure that she understands where he's coming from and that they haven't like crossed like this.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Do you think they make a good couple?
Um,
Let's get to the juicy stuff.
yeah, exactly. I okay, so one of the things I loved about this book is it's a romance at heart, but it's not like a typical romance. I mean, you meet Rob at the beginning and you kind of wonder, well, maybe they'll get together, but then it just seems so unlikely and they both have other pursuits. But he is so I do think they make a good couple. He's a caretaker of her in one of the only ways that she can accept.
Mm-hmm.
And I think her accepting his caretaking is a huge part of her growth. I don't know.
Yeah.
What did you think? Did you like him?
Oh,
Or
yeah.
do you like them as a couple?
I just loved how he kept catching her off guard, or like, you know what I mean? Like she was always on unsure footing, and you can just tell that that's like not where she's used to being. And I feel like it just contributes to her like overall journey. And I thought it was some of the most entertaining moments of the novel for sure.
I do too. I do too. I love like I mean they're complete opposites because like he picks her up in that van and it's just a complete disaster zone and she's in her like precisely chosen wardrobe. When she got a cashmere sweater as one of her maternity pieces, I just about died. I was like, seriously? When we had one of our first kids, somebody gave them a cashmere or something, and I'm like, this is going to be ruined after the first barf. I mean, it's just like, thank you, but can I return it and buy like 16 other things? But it was very sweet. I ended up keeping it, and the babies liked it. It was so cozy. But anyway.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Oh my God. But okay, so other funny scenes. What I want to ask everybody who's watching, what are some of your funny scenes or favorite funny scenes, because we got to talk about them. The one at the Bull's Head, though at the beginning when her brother Edward walks up to his cousins and it's like this total sleaze to his twin cousins, who by the way are hysterical. If this ever went to film, I think that would be one of the roles that would be the most fun to watch, is the interaction of the twin sisters and how they're so like double mint
Oh
kind of
yeah.
twinsy. Yeah, and then the other scene that I was just cracking up at is blah, blah, blah. Oh, it's totally escaping me now. I had it in my head, but anyway, what was your favorite scene?
Um, I it's hard to say. I loved, when like I loved seeing her in the office.
Oh
And
yeah, yeah, yeah,
like interacting with her coworkers and always that kind of like barrier of like her not realizing how like they think what they think of her. You know what I mean? Like I
yeah.
don't know. It felt like that always like yeah was really entertaining to
The
watch
line that
transport.
made me laugh was how she can't understand how she hasn't earned a management position after all of her time and experience, but the feedback is always that we think your skills would be used elsewhere, and she doesn't get it at all. She's just like, well, that doesn't make any sense, but it just I have to accept it. I'm like, oh my god.
Oh my god, absolutely.
She cracks me up too because she always has like the highest esteem for herself. I mean, okay, psychologically, yes, she has to because no one else gave it to her whole life. But like every time she describes how she's dressed, it's like absolutely appropriate. It's the only way that anyone should be dressing. If they're not dressing that way, they're wrong. And oh,
Yeah, well, part of me is it just respects the hell out of her kind of in a way of like how she like goes into her work, she does her job, she says exactly what's on her mind. I feel like women in the workplace in general it can be just like really fraught dynamic sometimes in terms
oh,
of like
that's true.
to act and how I use the word just in my emails like every email I send, you know what I mean? And just as an apologetic word. So it's just real. I literally just, I keep saying just. Anyway, anyway, I feel like there were elements of Susan's character that I felt like I wanted to implement in my own life to a certain degree.
To a certain degree. Yeah, you don't want to be so clueless, but
Right.
like there's a fearless because she's clueless, there's a fearlessness to her.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, wouldn't I love to have a lot of that? Okay, as you get closer to 50, I promise there fewer shits to give. It's just like you've run out, you're looking in your pocket. As a friend of mine, as one of my best friends says, she'll be like digging in her pocket and I'll say, "What are you looking for?" She'll go, "I'm looking for shits to give and I don't have any left." You know? So, but it's true. It's true.
There's just something so, I don't know. Yeah, admirable of just being so unapologetically yourself,
Yeah. Yeah. I
Love
think
that.
that might be what I love about quirky characters like this too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think she'd be that way if she were aware of herself?
I think if she were aware of herself, well, because I feel like it's more so just being aware of how other people perceive her. I feel, and I do feel like it's to a certain extent caring about what other people think and I feel like that would change her character for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. How about you?
No, I agree with you. Yeah.
Mhm.
If she were aware of it, she would just come off as mean.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a certain innocence to it, I guess. I don't know. Or maybe she wouldn't be that way. Who knows? But we're glad she is.
Yeah.
So, do you have we're kind of coming to the end of our time, but do you have any
Already? Oh my goodness.
it's 7:30, I know.
Wild.
Well, and I'm kind of oh my gosh, you know what I haven't done? I haven't been seeing people's comments. Okay, I'm gonna have, I promise I will go longer, people. I haven't been seeing your comments because, okay, okay. now I'm seeing them. My window for for those of you who are tuning in, when Natalie joined me on camera as we were getting ready to go on Facebook Live, I had had my 17-year-old son here like in major tech support mode because they had changed a bunch of security things over the weekend and nothing was working easily. But we found a workaround right at the end. But as a result, I wasn't seeing comments. So sorry, everybody. I'm not ignoring you. Hi, Ange. It's so good to see you. My cousin, apparently I made my cousin laugh. And Renee is here. Oh, yay. Okay. So thanks, everybody. Are there any more? I would love to hear what your thoughts, everybody who's listening, your thoughts are on Susan or your favorite scene, something that made you laugh. That would be a great way to end. But as you're thinking about that, do you have any inside scoop on Sarah's next book that you can share?
I am not privy to the knowledge, unfortunately, but I'm sure she's working on something, and I cannot wait to read it.
Yeah, yeah, that's good. That's good. Can you sneak me onto the ARC list, maybe? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
I'll sneak myself onto that list.
Yeah, yeah. We're all lining up. We're all lining up. Well, I do want to read. Natalie and Erica were nice enough to reach out. I don't want to go through without getting this. And I actually, excuse me, I actually printed this so I didn't have to look at it on my phone. But then during tech support, I forgot to run down and see it. Oh, we're getting some comments. Vicky says, sorry, I didn't read the book, which actually, everybody, it is always fine to join in if you didn't read the book, but she is doing her book club duty and drinking wine, though. So brava, Vicky.
Perfect.
Yes, we love that. I'm having my whopper of a cactus rose. And what are you drinking, Natalie?
It's just, some white wine.
There you go. There you go. Okay, so as I said, we have some answers directly from the author. And the first question that we asked Sarah Haywood was this: Susan Green is a one-of-a-kind, prickly, yet lovable protagonist. What inspired her character? And Sarah writes, female characters in novels are much more likely than male characters to be nice and sympathetic from the outset. That's what Natalie said. You guys are totally aligned on that. I have many friends whom it's easy to like as soon as you meet them. They're friendly and open with quick smiles and good interpersonal skills. I also have friends and family members who are more of a challenge! They might come across as awkward, guarded, or rather difficult, perhaps because they're naturally reserved or because they've learned to protect themselves by keeping others at a distance, which I really do believe was Sarah's deal. When you get beyond those first impressions, though, you discover that they're equally kind and engaging, and often very funny. I wanted Susan to be the sort of woman who you grow to care about as you get to know her and to find out more about her family history. Amen to that. There are 3 people in particular who inspired the character of Susan, but I'm not naming any names. And fortunately, they haven't recognized themselves. That's terrific. I'm going to actually put Susan's answers in the comment along with the video when this video goes up on the website. Do you think that would be okay, Natalie?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
For sure.
Okay. The second question was, what did you find most challenging about writing the book and what did you enjoy most? My biggest challenge was working out how Susan would change and develop over the course of the book. I didn't want readers to feel that Susan had learned nothing from her experiences, but neither did I want them to feel that she'd changed beyond recognition. Staying true to her character while allowing her gradually to open up to the world was a careful balancing act. Yeah, I imagine it was. I'm sure readers will have their own opinions on whether Susan changed enough or too much. One of the most enjoyable aspects of writing The Cactus was that the characters quickly became real flesh and blood people to me. I often felt as if Susan was tapping me on the shoulder. I love this part. And telling me exactly what she wanted me to say, what she wanted to say and do. I still think about her and wonder what she's up to. Oh, I love that. Well, Sarah, if she speaks to you, send us another installment on Susan Green. Especially, I would love to see what her child is like.
Oh my God, for sure.
Maybe she's like this is a spoiler alert, but maybe she's like the twin cousins. Because
Oh my
it's
God.
yeah, it's a girl. Anyway, not giving the author any ideas. She will she will figure it out better than anyone else. Um, I love I love that idea of how hard it must have been for her to balance Susan changing over the way, because anything would have rung too false if she did it too quickly or anything like that. The other thing, Natalie highlighted an article that I hadn't seen that Susan wrote for the Hello Sunshine website and about her experience and her inspiration for the book. And thank you for pointing that out. One of the things that she said was that she was an older mother. I think she said she got pregnant. She and her husband both had big careers and decided they were going to have kids, but never quite fitted into their busy, adventuresome lives. And she was 38, I think she said, when she had her first child, and 41 when she had her second. And so that experience of the immense change that comes with pregnancy, particularly in later life, and how it changes everything from how you interact with the world to how the world interacts with you to how you feel in the world, um, inspired her to write this story. And I can absolutely see how it did. I loved it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think I'm just such a sucker for like stories about motherhood and like mother-daughter stories too. Um and yeah, just kind of seeing how Susan's worldview just kind of like expanded in a way, and just kind of like broke wide open and allowed her to bloom. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil it or anything for people who haven't read, but it's really an emotional journey. It's really great.
It really is. Yeah, it really is. So, Natalie, thank you so much for joining us. I just want to remind everybody of a couple of things before we go. If you want to, there is on my Facebook page, there's a discussion, a JGL Just Gotta Laugh discussion group if you want to join. People are starting to join that and chat about the books in advance. Um, and I am now finally starting to be able to schedule books out more in advance so that you get more than a week's notice on what we're reading. It is, I will say, it's a bit of a process, and everything is upside down these days. And Natalie, we're certainly thinking about you all in New York.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
Yeah, and sending you good wishes. Um, but they are slowly coming together. So on 4/14 next week, we are reading Be Frank with Me by Julia Claiborne Johnson, which is a hysterical book. Another complicated character, but a child in this book. Um, and for that, I am going to be joined in conversation by an Uber fan, a friend of mine who's actually the one who turned me on to the book. And that she has a wild sense of humor. So that'll be a fun conversation. On the 21st of April, we're going to be reading a book called I Like You Just Fine When You're Not Around by Anne Garvin. And Anne has agreed to be here in conversation with me. And Anne is fantastically funny, but it's such a heartfelt book at the same time. So all books are available in ebook and audiobook and probably through your library. Of course, I'm going to recommend you get it from your indie bookstore. Particularly, they need your support now more than ever. And I'm trying to make a practice of choosing books that are out in paperback already, so they're easier to get. Anyway, if you have any questions, shoot them in the comments. And any final questions for us or for Natalie? Say your piece, or we'll see you next week. Thank you everybody for joining. This is really a thrill for me. Natalie, will you hold on after so we can actually chat?
Yes, for sure.
Okay. Okay. Thanks to everybody for joining. I will see you next week.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thank you, Natalie.